is my great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all delegates, including international delegates, attending the 34th edition of MIEA Marek Summit 2020.
The one that the sharing of videos using the handphone, I think that is something new and something that any agent should explore.
First time here, I find it excellent. I learn a lot. It's either I change or die.
As well, very interesting. I specifically like the CEO session.
It's interesting and it's an awesome session that actually negotiator or even the REA can keep updates their knowledge.
Become a successful event. 6 breakout session and very strong 400 over delegates, which we break past 7 years record. Marek 2021 going to be even much better. See you all at Marek 2021.
สมาคมการค้าอาเซียนจีนก่อตั้งเมื่อวันที่ 15 สิงหาคม ปีพุทธศักราช 2556 โดยมีสมาชิกผู้ร่วมก่อตั้งประกอบด้วยสมาคมการค้าอาเซียนจีนมีพันธกิจเพื่อพัฒนาความร่วมมือธุรกิจการค้าทั้งภาคเอกชนและภาครัฐในประเทศต่างๆอีกทั้งยังส่งเสริมให้เกิดการแลกเปลี่ยนข้อมูลเพื่อยกระดับความสามารถการแข่งขันทางเศรษฐกิจของประเทศในอาเซียนจีนให้มากยิ่งขึ้นสมาคมการค้าอาเซียนจีนยังเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในการผลักดันให้เกิดความร่วมมือทางเศรษฐกิจสำคัญต่างๆอาทิการผลักดันโครงการก่อสร้างสนามบินเบตงการลงนามเมืองมิตรภาพระหว่างจังหวัดยะลาและมณฑลหูเป่ยประเทศจีนนอกจากนี้สมาคมการค้าอาเซียนจีนได้ร่วมจัดงานสัมมนา World Chinese Elite Entrepreneur Summit 2015 and China ASEAN Cooperation Forum ที่กรุงเทพมหานครและงานสัมมนา The Second ASEAN Economic Community Integration Strategy Cooperation Forum ภายในงานมหกรรมแสดงสินค้าจีนอาเซียน CA Expo ซึ่งจัดขึ้นเป็นประจำณเมืองหนานหนิงประเทศจีน และยังได้ร่วมกับหอการค้าจีนอินโดนีเซียจัดงาน Indonesia China Trade and Investment Cooperation Forum ณ กรุงจาการ์ตา ประเทศอินโดนีเซีย สมาคมการค้าอาเซียนจีนพร้อมแล้ว ที่จะร่วมเป็นแรงผลักดัน สนับสนุนทั้งภาครัฐและเอกชน ให้ก้าวสู่ AEC อย่างมั่นคง
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Business and Tax Conference, moving forward to 2022. Thank you for logging in at this hour in the evening. In Malaysia, we are 7:30 at night, but in the Midwest, it's actually 5:30 in the morning, which is 14 hours behind Malaysian time. We are very honored to have two distinguished panelists logging in from the States with us this evening. And I have one distinguished panelist, which is a good friend of mine from Malaysia, logging in as well. This is the beauty of technology. It cuts across all time zones and brings us all together into one screen for the benefit of all. Allow me to go into the CV of our distinguished panelists this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic that we are going to be talking about for the next 2 hours is business, investments, and property investment opportunity in the Midwest USA. First and foremost, our first panelist is Carl, who is the Executive Vice President of Business Development and Foreign Direct Investment for World Business Chicago, a public-private non-profit partnership that drives inclusive economic growth and job creation, support business, and promote Chicago as a leading global city. The second panelist who's going to join us is Vicky, who is a real estate professional, licensed realtor, manager, and speaker. She is also a director of the Chicago Association of Realtors and a multiple award winner for her contribution and wealth of expertise in the real estate industry in Chicago. She is a member of the American Group of Company, providing a seamless and all-round service to investors for real estate investments, business startups, and relocation and other ancillary needs for people and businesses moving from overseas to Chicago. Some of you may be familiar with Dr. Sri Matthew Yeo, who is from Malaysia, has practiced law for more than 30 years in the UK, Malaysia, as well as Singapore. He was called to the Bar of England and Wales in 1986 by the Honourable Society of Lincoln Inn. His practice includes corporate advisory, real estate, offshore trust and asset protections, immigration law, legal residence, and citizenship practice. And last but not least, myself, who is the moderator for today. Welcome, Vicky, as well as Carl. Hello, Carl.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Agnes.
Good evening. And also Dr. Sri Matthew. So
Hi, welcome, Carl. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone. Okay, we shall pass the floor to Carl to do the presentation for this evening. Carl, over to you.
Thank you, Agnes. Agnes, can you enable me to share my screen, please?
Sure. I believe you have been, I think your function is able already. Can you check?
I did. It's not.
It is not? Zukai, would you be able to help?
I think they've made that.
Carl, would you be able to try again?
It looks like it's working. Let me get in position.
Sure.
Yes. There it goes. There it is. Well, thank you for the patience dealing with the technical difficulties this morning. The coffee is still finding its way into my system. Thank you all for allowing myself, World Business Chicago, and the city to talk about our beautiful city today, talk about the economic opportunities that are here, and be part of this group and discussion. It's a wonder. It's one of the only wonders of the pandemic that we all know how to speak Zoom as a common tongue now, and that we can gather even 14 hours apart in our day and have a discussion on business opportunities, especially as we look to probably a more prosperous and less disruptive 2022 after these following 2 years. As Agnes shared, my name is Kyle Schultz. I am the Executive Vice President of World Business Chicago. World Business Chicago is the City of Chicago's economic development agency. Our mission is to attract investment and jobs, support business, and promote Chicago as a global city. So I'm incredibly honored that we get to do that third part of our mission this morning, Chicago time, with each of you. As Agnes mentioned, World Business Chicago is at the intersection of the public and private sector. We are a public-private partnership with the unique feature that our relationship with the public side is more than just a financial contribution. Our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, is the chair of our board of directors. So we work very closely with the mayor's office to pursue equitable economic growth that'll affect all Chicagoans. And we really think that there's a lot to offer to the business world, both domestically and internationally in Chicago. There are an incredible set of stats here that I will let you peruse, but some of our favorites from this year is that in 2021 alone, we have created 12 new unicorns. Those companies valued over $1 billion, which exceeded our all-time total contribution of unicorns. In addition to the unicorns, we'll also have passed $6.5 billion in venture capital infused into our innovation ecosystem this year. We've been the #1 city for corporate relocation and expansion and foreign direct investment for 8 years in a row. And last year, even with the pandemic, we were able to become the 6th best FDI city in the world. So we really know how to work and support international investment and international market expansion. One of the reasons why we have been so attractive to international companies is because of our business climate. Chicago has the most diversified economy of any major US city, as you see by the very dense bar graph on the right, or table graph on the right. No sector of our economy makes up more than 15% of our total GDP, which our GDP, if we were an individual country, would be the 22nd largest economy in the world. And because we have this diversity of economy, it is easy for international companies and companies that are expanding rapidly to find and test their products with any market just from Chicago. The other strength that we have is that we have 37 Fortune 500 companies, 33 now, we have to update our slide, S&P 500 companies, and 400 plus major US offices with brand names that everyone around the world knows, from McDonald's, United, Motorola, and Boeing. And then with all of these strengths, we still offer a relatively affordable cost of doing business compared to our other peer cities that we talk about. San Francisco on the West Coast, New York on the East Coast. Chicago is still a cost-effective place for business to make an investment and not become cash strapped. And then finally, we are really proud of our commitment to being a global city. Chicago has the most twin or sister cities of any US city, with 29 around the world. And then more strategically, we are committed to a deeper commitment of international trade and economic development with 7 international partnerships that include a really compelling 2 in Asia with China and Japan and those governments. And then our most recent one that we signed in October of this year was with the Netherlands and the Orange on the Lake initiative. For Chicago, as much of the world has experienced, our big focus has been on how do we come out of the damaging effects of COVID. And on July 29th of last year, Chicago published the first strategic plan of any US city, called the Recovery Task Force Report. In this 105-page plan, 17 recommendation areas were outlined that would improve life for all Chicagoans, from youth services, workers' rights, and for World Business Chicago's interest, growth sectors that would help us have a faster economic recovery than we had in 2008. With that, 4 sectors were outlined, from food and ag and beverage, transportation, distribution, logistics, supply chain and warehousing, life sciences and pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing broadly. With this plan as our guiding light, Chicago on June 11th this year was the first major US city to completely reopen without any mask mandates, any vaccination cards. That has since changed a little bit because of the Delta variant and its rise, but this document has really helped us accelerate. And if I can allow, I want to dig deeper into what we're doing to make us an attractive place for each of those sectors. Chicagoland as a whole has always been a dynamic place for healthcare and life sciences. We have, as a region, one of the highest concentration of hospitals and some of the most pronounced names in pharmaceuticals. However, the city had never really had a strong presence of life sciences until this year, when that has began to change. This year alone, we welcomed Horizon, Solved, Xeris, VanQ, and Thales, as you see on the left-hand side, to Chicago as they open up R&D labs to develop the next phase of drugs. We have been, in 2020, the city who had received the most injection of venture capital into the life sciences sector. We really see this as an opportunity for Chicago to help lead the way the next time there is a health crisis around the world or in the US. One area that Chicago has historically been known for, and I think also people around the world know us, is for food. You can't think of Chicago and not think of the Obamas, Michael Jordan, our love for deep dish pizza and a Chicago style hot dog. But within that food, we are also the food capital of this country. Since 2017, we've seen our headquarters of food companies like Mondelez, Beam Suntory, ConAgra, and Molson Coors go from just 78 to 400 based companies. The number of food kitchens, those test places where aspiring entrepreneurs can develop their product, has gone up 138% in that same timeline. We really see our position as developing the next wave of sustainable, innovative food projects. Our favorite company to talk about is Nature's Fine. Nature's Fine is an alternative protein company that was funded and started by a grant from NASA and the United States Park Service to find alternative proteins in natural water resources in the United States. They have since been able to commercialize this protein and turn it into a product that is now on grocery store shelves around the country. And we just celebrated the announcement of a 200,000 square foot R&D facility. The other point I think most people think of for Chicago is that we are at the intersection of the East Coast and West Coast. When America was being linked in the 1800s by the railroads, the East to West railroads ended in Chicago and the West to East railroad ended in Chicago. That legacy has continued today with 6 of the 7 Class 1 railroads in the United States running through Chicago, the largest, most connected airport in Chicago, which actually has processed, because of all the bottlenecks at the Port of Long Beach in Southern California, more freight volume than any other port in this past month at O'Hare, a water port on Lake Michigan. So we really are a leader in all things TD&L. And then finally, manufacturing. And this one is one that I am truly excited about for the opportunity. Chicago is in a unique position with President Biden's push to transition the US economy into a green, sustainable, electric vehicle friendly economy. Chicago is in a great place with Argonne National Laboratory, M-Hub, which is a manufacturing innovation hub in this city, and the number of engineering talent we push out every year from our universities. We're in a really good place to be a leader and innovator in the green transition this country is going through. And then finally, we are still an attractive place for headquarter operations. During the pandemic, many people believed that cities and offices would not be the same. In fact, that is not true. We've had run counter to that. With our most notable success this year was Kimberly-Clark, the maker of Kleenex, Huggies diapers, and other consumer brands, choosing to relocate their North American headquarters to Chicago. And all of the reason why these industries are thriving and why companies continue to come to the city of Chicago is because we have an attractive talent offer. We are the hub for Chicagoland's workforce. So within just a 50-minute commute of downtown, there are 3 million working age people for our industry to pull, from the youth just starting their career to the most established executives who have a proven track record in taking companies into profit and going public. As you can see on this slide, that we have the third strongest base of employment for all occupations, while we'll also have a middle tier rank for wages. So we provide businesses a very cost-effective way to hire and scale their workforce while not breaking their bank and their payroll. And then we are the #1 destination for talent in the Midwest. We have 132 higher educational institutions that graduate 123,000 students every year. And as you can see here, as we transition into a much more knowledge-based and research-based economy, we are in the middle of some of the biggest, largest institutions, whether that's University of Iowa on our western edge, University of Illinois on the southern edge, and Notre Dame and University of Michigan and Michigan State. We are strategically positioned right in the middle of all of these tier 1 research universities. And then innovation. We just celebrated the 150th anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, the Great Chicago Fire was, as legacy goes, started in a very hot, dry October in Chicago in 1871, when a cow kicked over a lantern, which ignited their barn and proceeded to burn 2/3 of our city at the time down. And what is the most compelling part about this story was when the residents of Chicago at the time, finally, after 3 days, saw the ash and the black cinder of our city, had two choices. They could have moved back to the East Coast or continue to push west, or rebuild under sheer devastation. And within 22 years, Chicago was hosting the Great Columbian Expedition of 1893. So innovation and drive are part of our very DNA. So with that, our mayor is very committed to making Chicago one of the world's leading innovation centers, both in terms of venture capital, talent, and diversity, which we think is core to where talent will be in the future. We have a strong ecosystem, whether that's women-founded startups being #1, or the #1 private business incubator, where it helps international companies land and be successful. And then this is one of our favorite pictures from this year. In a pandemic, with Delta just starting to recede, Chicago hosted a record-attended Chicago Venture Summit. This is our signature innovation event where we bring together startups and venture capitalists from around the world for a 2-day crash course in trying to scale up money in the city. This year, we hosted 650 people, a record that was set by 2018, the last time we were able to do this, of 450 people was crushed. So now we have our bar work set for us in the future. And then finally, quality of life. One of the beautiful parts that we often hear when we host companies, and we just had a gentleman in from England yesterday, was Chicago is beautiful and has a lot to offer. And thankfully, this isn't just an anecdotal story or myself as the salesman sharing this. This is validated by Condé Nast, who has recognized Chicago now for 5 years in a row as the best big city in the US to travel and see and visit. And just some of the best stats here, whether that is we are the #3 best food city in the United States, and you can see on the left the gooey deep dish Chicago pizza that we all love, or have the most popular neighborhood, some of the best schooling. Chicago is really a vibrant place to spend your off time and grow a family. Our favorite on this slide, just because I'm a proud father of a 2.5-year-old, is a free 35-acre zoo in the heart of Chicago called the Lincoln Park Zoo, which has all, as my daughter would say, lions and bears, rawr. It's one of my favorite things as well. And then just show it's not all World Business Chicago, hyping up the greatest Chicago. We have added a QR code where you can see a list of other validated points that we think are why Chicago is a great place to do business. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today and share Chicago's story, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
Wow, Carl. To my surprise, you know, when Dr. Sri Matthew was actually suggesting this particular sharing, I wasn't actually sure what to expect, but I am very impressed with Chicago. You know, I've been to the States, but always to the west side on the West Coast. I think we really have missed something that it's actually very important. Surprisingly, in Malaysia for this particular budget that we had, we also try to push women empowerment, you know, in terms of that. And it's actually very good to actually see that Chicago, was it the number one or the number one city?
Yep.
Yeah, for women entrepreneurship, startups or
Yeah.
something like that.
The mayor
Wow.
is a lady. Agnes, the mayor is a lady.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Right.
Just now I saw, yeah. And received the most venture capitalist injections last year, wasn't it? Because of the life science and medical field.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've had, and with this year, our mayor, Matthew, thank you, who was the first Black lesbian woman elected in the country, ran on a platform of economic diversity and economic inclusivity. Our previous administration had really focused on trying to get corporate investment into the city of Chicago, into our downtown, with the hopes that that would spur economic activity across Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. We have a huge footprint in our city. That didn't happen the way the previous mayoral administration wanted. So this mayor ran to make sure we were focused on diversity. And so there is a commitment to making sure we continue to lift up our women innovators, that we help our Black and brown communities of Chicago, our African-American or Hispanic communities, to use a more commonly understood phrase, in investing in those groups so that all of Chicago can be successful. And this year, our venture capital, we are now the fifth city. We have now get the fifth amount of venture capital behind what you'll know on the West Coast with San Francisco and Los Angeles, and then Boston and New York on the East Coast. Chicago has finally risen into the fifth, where just 3 years ago, we weren't even in the top 10. So we've really done a good job of positioning our companies, whether it's through the Chicago Venture Summit or other strategic initiatives, to be a place that all founders, innovators, and companies can thrive and grow.
I see. So for foreign investments coming into Chicago, you know, is there any particular industry that they may not be able to focus, or they're pretty much open up for all kinds of sectors?
I am waiting for the day when there is an industry that we can't support in Chicago.
Wow.
When that day happens, I will, I don't know, celebrate, because to date, we have helped everyone that has come in. The English company I mentioned that was here last night is in corporate innovation. They work with corporates, the 37 companies that I shared early on in my deck, to innovate, find new solutions to the future challenges, so they do not get passed over by new industry that's starting to scale and grow. We had 2 weeks ago a Dutch company that was working to make the process of manufacturing education easier to understand. We've had one of the life sciences company that we mentioned was Danish, and they invested their R&D lab into Chicago. Really, the point of World Business Chicago is to be able to welcome, receive these international companies, understand what their objective is, because not every company has the same market, the same values, culture, or strategic long-term goals. Ours is to understand what those individual companies are and help you navigate our 22nd largest economy in the world, so that they are able to be successful and grow their company, both where they are currently domiciled, but also in the US and North America.
I find it really interesting to actually see that there is a huge relocations of regional office, isn't it? Just now you mentioned.
Yep.
Do you attract that by tax incentives, or how does that work? Because it really takes a lot of effort. Malaysia is trying to do similar things, you know, to try to be the regional office in Asia, right? So, you know, so we come up with tax incentives and etc. to actually like attract the setting up of the office. I'm just curious, what's the story with Chicago?
Chicago, actually, so like many cities, we do have a toolbox of incentives that can help companies make it more financially feasible to open up an office. A lot of those are place-based. You have to be in a facility that qualifies. You have to be in a neighborhood that qualifies. It's not something that's kind of just a blanket over the whole city. And I've spent time in different parts of the United States, probably most prominently Texas, where incentives were a key driver to get companies to move in there. Where Chicago's different is we don't feel we need to overly incentivize you to come to our city. We've got a global amenities, whether that's the zoo that, just to mention my daughter again, that my daughter loves and that all the children love, whether it's the food, the sports teams, then, or on the business side, we've got a much more affordable cost of doing business, a larger talent pool than most other big cities. We have a connected airport that provides you strategic advantages, those numerous diverse set of industries that are here. So we actually don't really incentivize that many companies to come to Chicago. The state of Illinois, our partners there have a little bit more flexibility because they're trying to help represent a whole state. But for Chicago, we really think our value is you want to be here because this is a platform for growth for you, and that it makes more strategic business sense for the long term because an incentive will eventually expire and then you are stuck in that position that for the long term, you want to be here and it's better for your business over that period of 10, 20 years to have Chicago as your base.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. I'm just
Carl, can
wondering-
I ask you
Matthew?
a question, please, Carl?
Yes.
The Chicago, I think, they are trying to rejuvenate a little bit of the south side, I think, because that part of town has a more or less lagged a bit behind. But tell me, how much will the Obama Presidential Center, which is going to be in Jackson Park, how much is it going to rejuvenate or change the landscape of the south side?
Matthew, thank you.
I ask this because I have a lot of investments in the south side.
I appreciate the very good insight on Chicago. Just for everyone who doesn't know Chicago, our city, though we try to be inclusive, and I've stressed that theme a lot, has a historical legacy of racism. We have divided, and other terminology in the American vernacular is redlined ethnicities that were not white Caucasian like myself into certain neighborhoods. And Chicago South Side, as Matthew mentioned, is one of those neighborhoods that both was discriminated against, but then also throughout the last 100 years has not had investment into there. And so the Obamas, both Michelle and Barack, their connection to Chicago is on the south side of the city. You'll often hear Michelle Obama, the first lady, say she is a daughter of the south side. And so when they were looking for a location for their presidential library and museum, they chose Chicago Southside Garfield Park, which is actually very near where the Columbian expedition that I mentioned in reference to the Chicago fire took place, as the home for their future library. And I think it was September, but honestly, in the pandemic, time is not a concept I understand anymore. This year, we broke ground on their presidential library, which we think will be a catalytic driver that will not only affect the immediate Garfield Park neighborhood, but all of the South Side. Can't remember, Matthew, the latest tourist projection, but I know it's gone up by at least 10% now that people want to get out of their house and have more experiences. There'll be a driver there, which will spur a whole set of new hospitality and service industry, as well as educational and sports, because those are the two pillars the Obamas really care about. Educational and sports technology companies that will want to be close to be able to be part of the Obama's vision. And the other one I forgot was civic tech. Because of what happened in 2016 and the Obama's relation to it, technologies that'll help improve the democracy and the civic culture of the society will all want to be near this institution so that it goes. So we anticipate it being that, to borrow an analogy, when you drop a boulder into a stream of water and that ripple effect that goes for ever, we expect it to be that type of catalytic driver.
Right.
Right. Yeah, we have a questions coming from the participants. Chicago is a U.S. big city. Government has provided, I believe have government provide any incentive for channel to support foreign investor, and what the future trend industry will popular, IT, manufacturing, SMEs, is it easy to survive in Chicago?
That is
Over to
a
you,
fun,
Carl.
loaded question. Thank you for it. So the city looks at all businesses, regardless of where they're located, the same. So there is not a specific incentive for foreign investment into Chicago. Where you will get, though, is World Business Chicago and our team, we really understand that it is hard to invest in a new location, especially if you are foreign. The cultures are different, the language is different, and that's hard. I've had the chance to live abroad for a little bit of my life and have seen kind of firsthand what it's like to be a foreigner in a different country, not knowing the cultures, the norms, or how to really speak the native tongue. So myself, my colleague, Alexandra Lukshuk, we work really hard to make sure that you have everything you need, using the analogy, holding your hand through the entire process. We typically see the part that I'm glad was called out was the SME. Most of the companies we help are not multinational conglomerates that just need to open up in the US now. They're mostly small companies that are coming in because they need the US market to grow. We have on Sunday of this week a German manufacturer of manufacturing control systems. So this is the system and the brains that run manufacturing companies, coming to Chicago to visit and establish their office. And they are, by all accounts, small. They've got maybe $2 million in revenue every year, and I think 10 people in their worldwide footprint. So it's not a big system, but we've helped them understand why Chicago is a great place to do business, what the advantages are for that type of business to be here. And then I think where we do try to add value is work within our ecosystem of partners to create incentives where we can. And so this company will actually be locating in 1871, which is the world's #1 private incubator that I mentioned during my presentation, on a, I think, discounted rent rate for 2 years so that they are able to grow and scale. And so we were able to negotiate that for them. So we do try, even though the city doesn't have a set of sanctioned incentives for companies, we are able to work with the rest of this business ecosystem to create value that helps incentivize investment into Chicago.
I see. Thank you so much. I hope our participants has got the answer that they want. So for the participants who asked the questions, basically, if you wanted to know more, feel free to actually drop your contact details to the organizer in the chat message. And we are more than happy to pass your contact over to Carl and his team, to actually follow through from there, So this kind of conference is where we're wanted to have new friendship at the same time to actually bridge that opportunity across. I think this is something that we wanted to really see, right? So, all right. So, Carl, at the moment now is Malaysian time 8:09. Yeah, so let me see whether there is any more questions. I think.
And I will just add, as you're looking for the questions, Agnes, I have shared my LinkedIn profile in the chat. So for all who want to connect there, but also happy to connect directly. I will add this as I talk via email. I will say, just as a point, I am terrible. So if you do want to connect and have a conversation on LinkedIn, I am very bad at following up on there, because even as we've been talking, I'm now up to 20 emails this morning. So email is the best way to find me, because that usually gets my all attention. But I'd be happy to continue this conversation and keep this dialogue going and explain more on any of the facets we've touched on today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, looks like there is one more. Would you have time to take on this particular one?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can add one more. Yep.
Over to you, Carl.
How about that?
Is for an investor to stay in Chicago, how about investment cost in, I believe it's probably threshold compared with other states? Is it friendly for investment? how about difficulty? Well, maybe
It's very friendly. It's very friendly.
yeah, it is the best. What is that? The best FDI city in the world has been actually receiving that, and 12 new unicorn. You know, those are one of the very important stats. Yeah. So maybe Anonymous did not actually sign in on time, so missed some of the presentation over there. So I believe it's like certain country, you know, for foreign direct investment going in, they probably have some threshold, minimum threshold kind of thing. Chicago has that. Carl, over to you. I believe that's where the question is at.
Yeah, I would be happy to I'd probably need a little more elaboration on the question, which I think would be hard given the nature of doing this today.
Yeah, maybe just email in, right?
Yeah, I think as Agnes said for me and Matthew, they both covered it very well. We are a cost-effective city, given our standard. If you are looking for a global city, we are probably the most affordable. We are the most affordable global city compared. There are other cheaper options in the United States, cities like Austin, Texas, or Denver, Colorado, or maybe Charlotte, North Carolina, but they are not in that category of global. They are much more of a national brand than an international brand. So with international, those roots, those ties that you would have, you would find Chicago a place that you're familiar with, that feels familiar, but also much more cost effective. And it is, as Matthew said, and he did the sales job for me, very easy to invest. We try to streamline that process as much as possible.
Yeah,
great.
thank you very much,
So,
Carl.
yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
you guys are welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
And we also want to thank Carl's colleague, Alexandra here. I see Alexandra is still around. So thank you, Alexandra, for coming, and Carl also. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Alexandra. Really, if anyone wants to connect and have a great conversation, build on this, Alexandra is the person who completely manages my life and is an underappreciated star. So
I'm incredibly flattered by all of this attention. Thank you all so much. And yes, happy to connect. I dropped my LinkedIn in the chat.
Yeah, please do. And my team will be posting whatever that's posted on the Zoom here and broadcast it over to Hopin, because the participants actually at the Hopin, right? So thank you very much, Carl, for your time today. Yeah, and we really wanted to be able to touch base with you in the very near future. Yeah.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Matthew. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Now, next, we would like to welcome Vicky.
Hello, Vicky. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I really mean to add on to the conversations earlier, because if you haven't been to Chicago, you're missing a lot.
Yeah.
Because everybody really knows only the East and the West Coast, California and New York. People don't know the middle part, which is Chicago. Chicago is probably the most metropolitan city in the Midwest, aside from being global. So I encourage everyone to come to Chicago and visit and see for yourself what Kyle is talking about.
Wow. You know what? The moment that we can travel international, probably Vicky, you see me together with Matthew.
Yes, Agnes, come on over. Matthew is a mainstay here in Chicago. That's why we're here today about it. So
right. Vicky, over to you for the presentation. Yeah, do you have any, for the next 40 minutes?
Vicky, are you able to share the screen, Vicky? All right, okay.
I'm gonna try to share the screen now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like it's letting me in.
Right. Crew, would you be able to test whether, I think we can see your screen now, but it's actually a desktop screen. Vicky, you probably will have to. Yeah, you probably have to launch your PPT.
Open the file.
Yeah, you need to open the file and only to the shared screen.
What happened to me?
Maybe I will just, would you be able to get it? A PPT to share?
Does it look like I'm opening up my...
Right. maybe I'll just stop.
Joy, are you there,
sharing.
Joy? Can you help?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can share here.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just stop at I'll stop this sharing, and Joyce, maybe you can help to share for Vicky.
Yeah, okay.
It's not letting me share actually.
Yeah.
That's why I see Vicky. I asked Joy to come in to back you up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vicky, I think you need to stop share. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Joyce, Joy, over to you.
Yeah.
There you go. Well,
Okay.
as has been said earlier, thank you for letting me be part of this conversations and talk about property investment in the U.S., specifically Chicago. As I don't want to reiterate what Kyle has said, but Chicago is really a very nice metropolitan city, as well as a global city. Joy, next. I don't know how to do this. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're putting up a disclaimer here that whatever investment opportunities there are in Chicago, you as an investor need to come and do your due diligence. So this is really strictly for things that I'm going to share about real estate. We are the American group of companies. Matthew and Joy are my partners in Malaysia, and I am here in Chicago as part of the U.S. Team member. We have a group of companies like the American New Horizons LLC, the American Assets Management LLC, and the Yo Foundation. So we are a group of companies here that we can help and provide information and research about what types of real estate investments you can find here in Chicago. We're also part, so this is our team, as I said, Joy, Matthew, and I work together to be able to give you that information so that you can get the best opportunity for real estate investments. Let's look at it from a macro level for now. How dominant is the US dollar? You know, as you can see in the chart, 60% of foreign exchange reserves is the American dollar. Everybody uses the American dollar as a base of investments. So over 8 decades, the US dollar has been the world's primary currency. And as you can see in this chart, other countries like Japan, Britain are smaller, or euros or yen are a little bit smaller share in the reserves overall in the macro level. So you can see how it's pretty strong. If you can see the world's GDP, the US shares about over 24% of the world's GDP. And next to it is China, Japan, India, and the rest of the world. UK has 3.3%. But as you can see how strong the GDP is in the United States, I guess a lot of the Malaysians or a lot of our viewers here today probably has come to the US and has seen how robust the economy is, such that, you know, it covers about over 24% of the world's GDP. The GDP growth overall in the US has really, most of it over the years from 2009 to this year has been on the positive side, except for 2009 as well as last year. Of course, we know what happened last year, right? The pandemic really hit us hard, and I think this is not just the US but globally. In 2009, we had the market crash, and so our GDP growth really was on the negative side. So, but overall, you can see we are all on the plus side, and you know, foreign investments has been really robust here in the US overall. As has been mentioned by Kyle earlier, this is probably an older slide. We are the 22nd largest, if it is a country, largest GDP because of what have been mentioned, you know, great pool of talents with all the universities that we have, robust economy, diverse economy, no more than 15% shares the industries in a particular industry. So we're next to Saudi Arabia, which is an oil producing industry. So again, the GDP, if Chicago is the country, is the 22nd largest GDP in the world. Investments in the USA. If you invest in the USA, there's really no restriction on foreign ownership of property. I am originally from the Philippines, so I know there's restriction outside of the USA, specifically in the Asia Pacific world. I know in the Philippines and some of the Asian countries, there are restrictions and you can only own a condominium. And if you own something that sits on a land, you cannot own it on your own. There's no restriction on foreign-owned businesses. So you can do a lot of partnerships, single proprietorships, and you can do it and establish it here in the US. There's no foreign exchange control. So the business exchange is pretty active, and you can bring in your currency here, and everything has, you can have as many personal bank accounts as you want, and there's strong legal systems, and the laws are very clear and transparent. In real estate, we have what we call title companies, and this title companies really searches a lot of the liens and liabilities of a certain particular property, such that there's no transfer of property without a clear title. And the title companies really do the research and do their due diligence in making sure that the transfer of ownership is free and clear to the next property owner. So these types of no restrictions or very little restrictions really makes everything clear and transparent, and no hanky-panky here in the US. If you look at the map, Joy, we are divided into 4 regions: the West, the Midwest, the South, and the Northeast. As you can see, we are in the Midwest, and Chicago, as mentioned, has been the biggest metropolitan city here in the Midwest. And if you see here in the map as well, the rail system as well as the air system, O'Hare is the second largest airport in the country, such that it covers between the East and the West and the South as well. So logistically, it's very placed or located strategically to serve a lot of the different parts of the country. Next, Joy. There you go. If you have not been in the city of Chicago is the best skyline that I have seen. I have been in a lot of the cities in the country, in the US. I haven't seen beautiful buildings, skylines in the city. That bean is pretty much more recent, and there's a lot of tourists coming onto that bean and take pictures and photos. We are surrounded by water. We are next to Lake Michigan, so that you have a lot of lake views, water views, and city views, all rolled into one. So come to Chicago and you'll see the robust economy and beautiful, clean city. As I said, I've been to different parts of the country, and I have never been to a city that has been this clean. And the rail system, you can go to Chicago, any parts of Chicago, without using a car. You can use the buses and the train system, and they're very on time and strategically located, such that everybody can go elsewhere and do their business. And if you're a new migrant here in Chicago, you don't have to buy a car, because there are lots of transportation that's available. So why Chicago? I think I shouldn't reiterate this anymore, just because Kyle did a very good job in telling you why Chicago. The metropolitan area is about 10 million people. We are the third largest city after New York and LA. So the annual GDP here is about 700 million, which is comparable to Switzerland's economy and twice the size of Malaysia. So again, for real estate, we have probably about 46% to 50% tenants or renters here. So we have a large tenant market, and that's where the opportunities come in. Again, the Fortune 500 companies come here. We have the McDonald's, Boeing, United Airlines, Allstate. Again, a very diverse group of companies come here to relocate and establish their headquarters here. McDonald's, they were located in the suburbs before, probably about 20 miles away from the city, but they relocated here in Chicago proper, or in the West Loop, which is a robust part of the city, and bring new business and new employment here in the city. So Boeing is also in the Chicago downtown area. Walgreens is a little bit more in the suburbs, but again, they're all headquarters here in downtown, as well as the close suburban markets. We have lots and lots and dozens of colleges and universities here. The University of Chicago is an Ivy League school, and it's listed as number 9, or probably higher than number 9 in the top 10 universities of the world. We have other universities such as Northwestern University, University of Illinois in Champaign, which is where a lot of the technology talent pool comes from, because we have a very good engineering courses in the University of Illinois in Champaign. So these are really just some of the reasons why Chicago. There you go. In terms of real estate, based on UBS Global Real Estate Bubble Index, you'll see here in this graph that Europe has the most most overvalued properties, and such that they are probably the most locations that will have a bubble, a real estate bubble. As has been mentioned, Chicago, if you look at, we are way down there. We are really very undervalued, as well as in terms of real estate pricing. Our real estate prices here are very, very affordable, such that the global bubble will probably not occur as much as in Europe, Hong Kong, or Asia Pacific, and other parts of the US, such as LA, San Francisco, and New York. So come over, very affordable. Property market in the US is very robust. As you can see, even with the pandemic, the activity, real estate activity here in the US has been, fantastic. And I travel a lot because I'm part of the, I'm a board of director of the National Association of Realtors, and that's the mother board of all real estate practitioners here in the US. So I kind of have a feel of all the other markets in the US. In California, they say that if you put a property on the market, it's snatched up within a day. And there's multiple offers all the time, and sometimes they go beyond the asking price. They go beyond, 100,000, 200,000 in those coastal cities of the U.S. So such that this statistics by Redfin is probably a little bit lower, because right now it's 45% pending. Pending means that they are under contract and they have been bought by someone, and they're waiting to the property to close. And so once a property is on the market, it snatches up within a week. And sometimes there's less than a week. And sometimes they're a little bit, it's between 1 week to a month, the properties on the market are gone. So no time to think, because interest rates are very low. That's probably one of the major drivers of why real estate here is very active. Real interest rates hover between, it used to be about 2.75 to right now probably hovering around 3%. And I know in markets around the world, they probably are about 6 to 10%. So buying properties via financing, money is very cheap, is very affordable. 3% to buy a home. A lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of investors from other countries as well, and taking advantage and leveraging their monies. So if you can see here in this graph, between 2019 and 2021, very fast market here that we have. The rental market in Chicago, we have a very strong renter market because of the activeness and the demand for houses and real estate here in Chicago. The prices are going up. So the rising home prices in Chicago is one of the reasons why there's more renters, more recently. And according, it's been going, according to Real Deal, sales transactions have increased nearly 20% year over year as people look for more space. So because of the pandemic recently, a lot of the people has migrated from downtown to the suburbs. In downtown, most of the properties are vertical, which is mostly condominiums. And so a lot of people we want more space. The kids are home, everybody's home, the dogs are home. So nobody can really work really well, and nobody can go out. So everybody started wanting to add more space in their homes, such that everybody or most people went to the suburbs and buy homes to have more space. So the migration went from back to the suburbs, but more recently people are coming back to the city. And so prices are coming back again. And the renters, because of the rising prices in the city and the suburbs, it's not as affordable anymore. And so the renters are coming back, and this is where I'm coming from in the next slide. This is where the investment companies can, investors like you guys who are in here can take advantage of this opportunity. And us, the American Group, how can we help you? We can help you because we have a lot of different ways of doing, some strategies that we can help you to get the high net rental return. In Chicago, as has been mentioned, we have a very low entry point for investments. The investments that we've had are under $100,000, so that when your net return comes back, you earn money in dollars, right? Because if you park your money here and earn money, you can reinvest that in your next property. The capital appreciation is also high because of that housing demand, as I have said earlier. There is what we call a subsidized housing, where the government, the city of Chicago and Cook County, that's the bigger regional part of Chicago. They have different types of incentives for people who are in the low income population, to give them what we call a housing voucher. This housing vouchers lets them stay in the renters, being as renters, and they can pay rents through those housing vouchers. And these housing vouchers are provided by the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And that means that you're assured of revenue coming from these vouchers, which provide homes for our low income people here in Chicago. So this is our strategy. We buy affordable property, as mentioned. We buy properties probably between 60 to 100,000 or more, depending on the type of property it is. We rent it out to tenants under the what we call the housing vouchers, or the as mentioned here, it's a subsidized secured program by the city of Chicago. And we have a professional team here in Chicago, and I lead that team. I look for properties that will give that high return, and make sure that all the management and and all the utilities are paid, the taxes are paid. So the property management and the due diligence is being done by a local team here in Chicago. So I am your eyes and ears here in Chicago. So making sure that we make our investors as happy as can be. We have freehold properties that are suitable for government subsidies. Most of the investments that we try to get for our investors has a net ROI of not less than 10%. Our target rental amount is at least $1,000 or more. 2 bedrooms here to 3 bedrooms will probably get you a return of about $1,200 to about $1,300. In the U.S., the total rental amount is about $1,100. But here in Chicago, our rental average market is about $2,000. So as much as we are affordable, when you buy these properties, our rental amount is much higher than some of the parts of the country. So our pricing, as I said, is not as more than $100,000 per unit. And again, the amenities here are like the public transportation, the schools, the hospitals, restaurants, groceries are really very close to each other, such that wherever you buy, or we want to make sure that those properties are located in those types of areas. So these are just sample properties here that you are seeing. We bought this for $93,000, and it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. Most of the properties that we buy are second homes, which means they're older homes, but we want to make sure that these homes are either well positioned, such that we don't really spend too much money on remodeling. But if there are some opportunities that needs remodeling, we do that too. But we want to make sure that we calculate the repairs in a as less as possible. So after all the expenses and management fees, we still net 11% on this home for $93,000. So I'm going to ask a lot of the people on the Zoom right now, and where can you get a property that has a $93,000 value with a net return of 11%? And this is just a year-over-year net return. You're not really counting the return of your capital appreciation when you sell the home. So obviously there's going to be equities coming in. The property appreciation, value appreciation is going to come up, within a 5 to 10 year period. So more examples. These are the, they're in South Normal. Again, these are not the typical high-end homes that you have, but you can see the types of, remodeling that has been done in the living room and the kitchen. Kitchens and bathrooms are the areas where you want to remodel most, because that's where you get the most value back to your investment. More examples here. This is a little bit more of suburban property, single family homes. This are the more city homes, they're smaller homes. But again, the single family homes are I think that's the best avenue to invest in properties. This property on the right, we bought this for $63,000 and we're getting about $1,600 monthly return, monthly rent on this home. So you just do the math and you can see how much revenues you can get out of this properties that we buy. Again, these are the types of remodeling that we've done. Some of these homes, are really in bad shape, but now they're looking good and they're ready to rent for those subsidized homeowners or subsidized renters that we look for. Feel free to give us a call. There's a QR code there, and we are the AmericanGroup.com. My name is Vicky Silvano. I am board of director of the Chicago Association of Realtors, as well as the National Association of Realtors. And anything in real estate, you can give me a call and I can guide you and advise on, typical questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much for the sharing. Joy, maybe you can unshare. Yeah. So wow. Now we are going into like the real stuff. You know what,
the
Vicky?
Real deal, Agnes.
I know. Vicky, you know what? I'm like looking at the net 10% return. I'm like saying, wow, since when that how long ago? Let me see. Yeah, I know. Malaysia used to have that, but that was very, very long time ago, honestly. Yeah, so we have not been experiencing that for some time. So it's so good to actually see that property is still yielding that kind of returns. Something that is actually beat all the other kinds of investment tools that is actually in the market. So Vicky, let us go straight to some of the questions that we received while you were actually talking, when you're doing your sharing. So from, yes, from, let me see, is this the one? Question from Anonymous.
The cost of doing.
Okay, let me see. Okay, this one first, I think. Was it the cost of doing the foreign? I think this one is done. Okay. This particular one.
Oh, the gains.
Yeah. Does the state of Chicago, I'm looking at 827, yeah, on our Zoom chat. Does the state of Chicago has a minimum capital requirement for immigrant investors? Meaning, is there a minimum investment sum? I believe.
No, you can invest as little as 40,000 to as high as millions of dollars. Again, depending on the type of investment that you want to make to do, you can invest any type of, from a minimum. There's no minimum, there's no maximum. We try to make sure that once you buy this single family homes that we have our investors invest in, we calculate all the costs that needs to be calculated so that we know that return, that we can give that rate of return to the investor. So there is no minimum requirement for any immigrant investors. And we have a different strategy for people in Malaysia or elsewhere in the world who come to Chicago to invest. So we try to make sure that you put your property in an LLC, such that your liabilities are much less when you do your investments. Do they have same requirement skilled immigrants as the rest of the? I'm not sure what you mean by skilled immigrants, but in Chicago, because I will be your team lead here, I will be able to help you out in calculating all your costs from the time of the purchase of the property to whatever remodeling that we need to do, and the carrying costs while we're waiting to have it rented. there is a waiting period sometimes for the voucher holders or the subsidized vouching holders that we use, but that also is retroactively paid by the city, so that you don't really lose money. You just wait for the money, and then once it starts, all that money, rental money coming in, they come in like clockwork. It goes to your bank directly, and you get payment every month, and you just sleep comfortably, and your money's coming in all the time.
On the first of the month.
Yeah.
First of the month, yes. You know, it comes in like clockwork. Yeah, even during that.
Yeah, it's either the day before the coming month or the first day of the month. It's there. This question here: if foreigners buy real estate, will there be restrictions in government?
Yeah. So I want to deep dive to the first question, Vicky, because I'm reading it again. I think what this participant is trying to ask is also regarding if I probably, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, the participants, you may repose your questions. I believe what he's trying to ask, because he mentioned about skilled immigrants, I believe he's trying to ask, like, if he's investing in the property, does he actually get any form of visa that certain requirements require under the skilled immigrants? I think so.
Okay.
I'm trying to reread the questions over and over again to try to understand the gist of the questions, because he has another question that's on property. So I thought, hey, maybe this one is slightly different.
I see.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, if you're talking about visas, there are different programs by the U.S. government, what we call an EB-5 program, where you can invest $500,000 or over, and get, there are requirements. You have to make sure that you produce 10 employment and 10 jobs with it. You invest in, you have like, again, a minimum investment of 500,000. You employ 10 jobs.
Create 10
stay
jobs.
Here. You create 10 jobs. And so that's one of the programs. There's also programs called E2 visa. And I think Malaysia is a E2 country, such that you can invest here less than 500,000. But again, you have to work with an immigration attorney to make sure that you're following all the requirements of those visa programs, so that you can, stay here in the U.S., come to the U.S. Most of the Asian countries that come to the U.S., they bring their kids to school, right? Because universities here are pretty much why people come and invest here. So when their kids are here going to school, to the universities, they start buying properties. And so now they wanted to stay because their kids are finished school and they want to have a job here. So those are the two types of programs that you can avail of, the EB-5 and the E2 program, where you can invest and, hopefully translate it into being an immigrant down the line, and, stay here in the US. I hope that I answered that question.
Vicky, can I add to what you're saying, Vicky?
Yes.
For our participants who are from Singapore and maybe Thailand and the Philippines, yes, we have these countries are E2 countries, the signatories with the US. But Malaysia, I don't think it's an E2 country. But however, yes, for Singaporeans and from Thailand, they are. But Malaysia, although we are not an E2 country, that means we don't have an E2 signatory with the US. But there are some other programs, some other visa programs that the requirement is less than 500,000 or maybe around there. It is not very much. It is quite affordable, that affords the participant to take up an immigrant visa, which that eventually leads to the green card. This would be the L1 and L2 visas, where they come in, and let's say in buying a property, you have to fashion it in such a way that you make it as a business, all right? So that means you don't own just one property and just collect rents, all right? Maybe you own a property or a couple of properties, and then you also buy a small business like a hair salon, some restaurants, all right? And then it's a going concern and it's generating income for you, all right? And then you employ people in those hair salons or the nail salons or restaurants, all right? So you create some employment there. It's quite similar to the E2 visa, but then we from Malaysia, speaking from the Malaysian point of view, then we are going under the L1 visa. All right. So
see. Oh,
yes,
thank you so much, Dr. Sri.
Yeah.
Vicky, in Malaysia, we customize to actually call Matthew, Dr. Sri Matthew. We have that, there is an extra title. So I'm like so used to calling him like that as an old friend.
Title, that's all.
I usually bow to him.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we have a relaxing sessions today, which is actually as an open forum. Now there is this other questions that is if foreigners buy real estate in Chicago, will there be any restrictions on the government? Okay, let me try to think what this scenario trying to lead to. Is there anything I need to pay attention to if I sell my real estate in a few years? How about the gain tax? So I think, okay, if I'm coming from Malaysian standpoint, sometime in Malaysia, certain states in Malaysia, certain type of properties is not for the investment. It's actually not for foreigners, right? So I think Vicky mentioned that just now because Vicky was originated from Philippines, was it? From Philippines, So there probably will be restriction. I think certain part of ASEAN as well. That certain part you can buy landed, certain part you can't buy landed, and things like that, or you're not allowed for industrialized thing. I believe that's the question.
I'll answer the first part of the question, okay? And then there's the second part, maybe let Vicky answer about the
tax. Yes. Over to you.
But the US, the beautiful, unique thing about the US is it hasn't got any restrictions on any foreigners owning anything, okay? You can own a piece of land, you can own a single family home, which is like a detached house standing on a piece of land. You can own a condo, you can own an apartment, you can own a garage, you can even own a skyscraper, depending on how deep is your pocket. Okay, you can even own a boat, you can even own a yacht, you can own anything. Anything that a local American can own, you can own, and that is the beautiful part. There is no restriction on that. Now, tax-wise, there are ways, to structure tax whereby, you pay, the minimum possible tax, we can do some tax planning, not tax evasion. Tax evasion is illegal. Don't run away from tax. Right?
Yes.
Pay, right? But we pay, and then after that, you can repatriate back the money, or you can take the money not back to Malaysia, but you can take it to other places, all right? And there is
because of the foreign investment, because of foreign source income, is it? Matthew, you're mentioning that, is it? Because of the budget, the recent budget.
Yeah, because of the recent budget, I would have paid my tax to the Malaysian government the first round when I got my profits, and then I send it over to US and I buy some properties there. Now I earn some rental and I want to take it back to Malaysia. The Malaysian government want to tax me again 3% on that. So that makes
during
me
the
think,
6 months. Yeah.
Maybe, I have two choices. I don't want to bring back the money. I can leave it there, or I bring it to some other places.
Maybe we talked about reinvestment.
Yeah, reinvestment, yes.
Yeah, and then snowball the investment further.
But there is a way where, if you reinvest in the US, then you don't have to, you postpone paying your real property gains tax. This is a section 1031.
Taxes.
1031 deferred property tax. That means, you reinvest again in another property in the US for the similar or a bit higher amount. Then you don't pay any tax, or you defer the payment of the tax until I don't know when, just defer.
Okay, so that question is an interesting question, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, the US actually have a very different tax structure, right? So we can't actually using the Malaysian jurisdictions or the fundamental of the Malaysian tax or even Singapore tax structure to actually go and guess what will be the US tax structure will be like, because they are on world tax basis, whereas Malaysia and Singapore, we are very much on a territory tax basis. So there are other things that behind the scene that will be different. But I think what maybe I call Matthew, Matthew, yeah, you know, so that we don't know who is the participant today, right? So generally, US has a more mature tax structure, I would say. Yeah. So just now what Matthew talked about, you know, certain deferment or the delayed and etc. I think those will be the area. If anyone wanted to find out more about the taxes, Vicky will pretty much be one of the very important point of contact first. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Agnes.
You know, we always tell our friends, those people who want to invest in the US, a few things that you know, you should never do without, okay? Because that will save you a lot of problem and save you a lot of heartache and pain in the long term, okay? Which is, you know, you need a good property manager, all right? Because, you know, you cannot manage your property if you're here in Malaysia and your property is in the US, all right? Because we have different time zones. We are exactly about 12 or 14 hours, you know, ahead of the US. So can you imagine, you know, it's daytime over there now, you know, and then something goes wrong with the property. There's some pipe leaking, you know, and then you be sleeping, and then, you know, your tenant hasn't got anybody to call, and he's got to call you while you're sleeping. So it's not practical. You need a very good property manager, a property manager who is proactive and go and inspect the properties, because, you know, if the properties you find that there's some defects in the at the early stage, you nip in the bud, so to speak, so that you save further costs down the road. I think, Vicky, we have been doing these strategies, and we know that sometimes, you know, things are there, so we quickly, you know, spend a little bit of money to just fix it up first before the situation gets out of hand. Secondly, you need a good tax advisor over there. Okay, tax advisor is a person that will help you to save a lot of money also. Okay, even though you have to pay him maybe a yearly fee, all right, but it will save you a lot of problems. You need a good attorney, a good lawyer, all right? I'm not saying that because I'm a lawyer, but, you know, I always firmly believe that you go and invest in another different country, you better have a good lawyer, somebody who responds to you very quickly, all right, and who is always there when you can pick up the, I don't know, write a shoot off an email to him, and then he gets back to you very quickly, all right? So these are the few people that you must know. Okay.
Yeah.
This is actually where the team concept is.
Correct.
That's why we have a team to make sure that everything is covered. You know, whatever issues we may have, that we can call on these people so that we can really, you know, cover all our bases. So it's the 1031 exchange is really your best bet to defer taxes and not pay too much taxes down the line. And you have reinvested your money. So you're, you know, whether you're sleeping or you're waking up, your money's working for you during these times. So why single family homes? There's one more question here. Why single family homes is probably one of the best investment vehicle that you can get into. If you want to go into condominiums, you can do that too, but there's added costs in condominiums where you pay the homeowners association fees, which these fees are really, you know, to me are wasted money. And you can invest it in single family homes. They appreciate better as well. But you can invest in mixed use buildings or commercial buildings as well. We're not restricting you to on single family homes, but our experience has been that single family homes can give you that high return. With commercial properties, there are some good opportunities here as well, because, you know, a lot of the commercial properties have been hit hard by the pandemic. You know, the hospitality is not as good. Hotels are, you know, very low occupancy right now. Some of the retail, like the malls, are being repurposed because nobody goes to the malls now, right? They go to Amazon.com and do their shopping there. So
emo
there's
nowadays.
exactly. So a lot of these commercial properties are, you know, also other good vehicles and good investment strategy that, you know, we can talk about that later on if you really want to deep dive into other parts of different types of investment vehicles.
Right. There is one question that is actually posted at, according to our chat here, is 834 questions about, can you share about the turnover cost? I believe it's renovation cost in Chicago.
Cost.
Yeah, which is the painting, cleaning, maintenance. I know, Vicky, you have actually shown one slide. So actually says that after all that, you know, it's net approximately 11%. So I think maybe for some of our participants, they still want to know, like, but how much, you know, like it's this potential cost that they have to like allocate aside.
Yeah, so depending on the property that we buy, sometimes we purchase properties that has tenants in there already. So if there are tenants in there already, all we need to do is really just the maintenance. So if you know, because we're brand new landlords, we bought it from somebody else, and sometimes the previous landlords are not as they're not as you know, they don't take care of those tenants as much as we do, because you want to make sure that our tenants are happy and that they will stay for a long time, right? So we, in those situations, we just do whatever the tenants request us to do. So if there's like repainting of a room, or there's some changing of appliances and all that, there's minimal costs on those types of properties, okay? If we buy a vacant property and that it needs some work, because when we buy vacant properties, you know, usually they're obviously less expensive. And so we try to, I have a contractor. As I said, I do a lot of things here. I have a contractor, I bring him to the site, and we evaluate how much cost we need to put in so that we can put it in a rent ready situation, okay? So we probably, you know, depending on the property, if we need to paint, change the kitchen cabinets, buy appliances, you know, change the floors, it'll probably cost us about, you know, $20,000 to $30,000 on some of these properties. And if we buy them less expensive, even if our total cost will probably still be about $60,000 to $70,000. And if it's a 3-bedroom home, we get about $1,300 to $1,400 rent a month. So I'll give you an example what you know, one of our investors, Matthew, bought here. We bought it for $46,000. We paid about $20,000 in remodeling, and we now have $1,400 in rent. And the rent is, and with the rent, the tenants pay for the utilities. They pay the heat, the electric, and water. So that $1,400 is pretty much just to pay our taxes, right? And if you paid cash, you don't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
So your net return is really pretty high.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually,
So,
if you can recall earlier on Vicky's slides, you know, some of the important KPIs is every one of the single family homes that we find will cost less than 100,000. These are the sweet spot, you know, Agnes, because you see, if you go beyond that price point, okay, then you know you're not going to get that kind of double-digit net return. Yeah, so we must find the properties that are below 100,000, and these properties must yield more than $1,000 in rental. All right, and it must be freehold, all right, and nearby amenities where the local people want to stay. Yeah, no, there's no point to buy a cheap property and nobody wants to live there. All right, so that is some of the KPIs that we have to aim for.
I see. Now there is a question for Vicky. If real estate company to manage and rent the house for me, how are those fees and commissions calculated? what will happen to the legal issues in the tenant contract?
Good question.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
These are seasoned investors. These are seasoned investors. So, they wanted to take care of all angles. Yeah.
Maybe. Vicky. Actually, I think they should call you.
I know.
Or then we set up a talk. But anyway, just to answer the question very briefly, okay. The management fee is 10%, all right? It's 10% of the rent, all right? So which means that actually there is also a compulsion of for the property manager to get a good rental, so that the tenant will stay on, you see, because if the property is vacant, there's no management fee to charge. Simple as that. Okay. And then it's 10%, and I think that's the general.
The rental fee to rent any properties is 1 month's rent.
Yes, 1 month's
That's the
commission.
So I think that's pretty basic to
pretty
everywhere, right? So there's 1 month's fee for renting the property, and there's and 10% to manage the property. Obviously, that's really just the management fee. Any cost beyond $200, I ask the owners if, because obviously I do all the management and making sure everything is in order. So I tell, obviously I reach out to the owner with Matthew and ask him, okay, we need to do A, B, C, D, so that I get his approval first before I do those big, things to do. But normally it's that 1 month's rent fee for renting out, and 10% for the property management on a monthly basis. Legal issues, we have what we call a lease agreement. So we have a lease agreement between the lessee and the lessor, and making sure all the information there and all the restrictions and guidance on what they can do and what they cannot do. If they don't pay rent on the first 5 days, what's going to happen. So these are all legal contracts that we use here to make sure that we have an agreement between the landlord, between me and the tenant. So there is a contract there.
Yeah. Vicky, would you like to add on information regarding the insurance that could be purchased on the
insurance? Thank you. Good question again. Yeah.
Because so just to answer on the legal on the rental contract as well.
Yeah. So every time I have a renter, usually we put up an insurance. That will be the cost of the owner, because anytime you buy any property here in the US, you have to buy building insurance or property insurance. So insurance cost will probably is probably about $1,000 a year, and that's obviously calculated in our in our net return, because that's taxes, real estate taxes, and insurance are one of the two costs that we consider when we do our investments.
And what does the insurance cover?
The insurance would cover like fire, robbery, if there's a break-in, or if there's a break-in appliances that, conks out, some of the, like if there's a hurricane and your roof fell off, those types of calamities are all included in that insurance. So
what about when tenants not paying rent?
No, it's not covered.
No, the government covers it.
The government covers
tenants
it.
are not paying rent.
Right.
We have to go a different route. We have to issue like a 5-day notice. Okay. We have a process of evicting tenants. So it's not an easy process, but that insurance will not cover your rental losses, so to speak. The rental loss will be covered if, let's say your house got burned down and you have to go to a hotel to live. So that's when it gets coverage.
Yeah. Vicky, can I actually ask one sensitive question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Could you please share with us one of your experience, close to haunted experience or nightmare experience about rental management or tenant management? You know, because a lot of the time, you know, like we hear about, oh, these are all the good things, but what about a potential like really bad situation?
There's lots.
Wow.
There's lots of
that's why you need a good
potential.
manager.
Probably you can share with us one, you know, like
I'm just
memorable
gonna
ones.
yeah, I'm just gonna share a more recent one. You know, we just
Okay.
bought this property, and we just put in that $20,000, $25,000 in the home. We put in a tenant there that's you know, voucher holder, and there's a neighbor who has lots of dogs, right? And the renter has also a dog, it's a puppy. There's the dog next door somehow bit the tenant's dog.
The puppy. Okay.
The tenant's dog, the tenant's puppy, right? And it died. So you know, sometimes this types of situation you have to really be flexible. You know, if it's just like evicting tenants, it's easy, you know, because there's a process to it. But sometimes they're not like the typical experience. So, you know, of course we call animal control. We call them to make sure that, you know, all those next door neighbors are vaccinated with rabies shots. And we have to, you know, the tenant eventually left and we let her go. You know, we break the lease. Again, the flexibility of a property management has to be there. You can't just say, okay, oh yeah, you did a 1-year lease. You have to fulfill that lease. But you know, obviously I don't want her to get back on me. I'd rather take my loss, right? And put her out and put a new tenant. And now I have a nice and happy tenant again.
Wow.
So yeah, it's yeah, there's lots of experiences. You know, if I'm not as strong as I am, I'm probably not going to do this property management. But but it's you know, it's all about people. It's how you treat the people. You know, no matter whether they're tenants or they're property owners, you treat them fairly and honestly. So you want to make sure that they live comfortably as well, so that when there's issues, you know, I tell them, you know, to give me time so that I can make sure that their issues are also being taken care of. So
Vicky, there's a questions here, but I wanted to pose it to both the panelists, including Dr. Sri Matthew. Dr. Sri Matthew, you come from a foreign investor point of view, whereas Vicky will come from an American point of view as a real realtor. Okay. Once the rents cannot reach the price I expected, from an investor point of view, if I choose to sell the house, will the procedural or the legal issue be complicated for foreigners? The exit mechanism. Dr. Sri, you want to take on this one first?
The simple answer is there's no problem. I have so many of the properties, easy, all right, in the US. The most easiest thing is you don't have to go to the US to sign the SPA. All, you know, because the US accepts e-signing, okay? So that is the easiest part. And then I've got lawyers who handle the whole process, okay? And the thing is done very, very easily. It's seamless, actually. All right. It's easier than doing the sale and purchase in Malaysia, actually. Yeah.
So same questions to Vicky. Vicky, would you be able to share with us how long normally is the lead time, like upon getting a new buyer until the money is ready to be repatriated out?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So from the time of contract, so let's say we identify a house to buy, right? From that point on, we have contracts, pre-printed contracts here in the US, where realtors like me just fill in the blanks, okay, of the price, the terms, the closing date. If there's a mortgage, there's a mortgage contingency date. There's an inspection period. There's a property inspection period. There's an attorney time period, property review. So I do all those kind of things. Once the negotiations is over, you negotiate maybe within a day or two on the price and the terms. And then once that's everything is agreed upon, the buyers and the seller will sign off on the contract. From the time of the signing of the contract, I give it to an attorney. Illinois is a state, is an attorney state. So most transactions that we do here, real estate transactions that we do here are all passed on to an attorney, so that the attorney will cover all the legal issues that you may have, taxes, whether am I on time in doing my review and all that. So it takes about, if you pay cash, it takes about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, so that we know that we have time for investors like people in Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines to bring their money to the US. Because I know the transfer of money is probably take another 2 to 3 days, right?
I see.
Wiring of money sometimes gets complicated. So hopefully we haven't had any issues on the wiring. It's just sometimes we use title companies as well. So the attorneys have relationships with title companies. So these title companies are the ones that review whether the title is clear or not. So if a title is not clear, when you bought it, let's say I finished the closing, right? And the title, and somebody knocks on my door and say, hey, this is my house. And so, no, I just bought this house, right? Then the title company, we can, call on the title company and figure out who really is the owner of that house.
Wow.
And if the house is mine, then it's mine. If the house is not mine, then the title company will have to pay me, the amount of money that I paid for the house.
The compensation.
Yes,
Vicky,
as compensation.
I just want to add, because the term concept of title company maybe can be quite alien to Malaysians. Yeah, because we never use title companies here in Malaysia. We only use the lawyer. All right. So in the US, Agnes, there is like a double layer of protection. The lawyer is there to protect you, but the title company is also an independent party that does the necessary searches, the necessary due diligence, and finds out how much the seller still owes, maybe some water, some taxes that has not been paid. They do all the searches so that once you go through a closing process, all right, if you are the buyer, you take the property free from encumbrances. All right, in Malaysia we call it encumbrances.
That's
so
right.
that is the double protection. And also in the US, the buyer has the option of also buying a title insurance. You see, the title insurance actually covers you also for any defects in your title, in case the title company somehow botches the thing, but you are still covered by a title insurance. This title insurance is different from the homeowners insurance, right? Homeowners insurance,
Yes.
Vicky was telling you about that about 10 minutes ago. Title insurance is a one-time premium payment, but it covers you for the value of the property that you bought. So actually, the process is very, I would say, it's very safe in the US, and like you say, it's got a probably a more mature system of conveyancing as well compared to here.
Right, thank you, Vicky. I'll tweak that question a little bit from a seller perspective, selling perspective. So from the date that I managed to identify a buyer, signing off the agreement until I get my money, it will depend on whether the buyer is a cash buyer or a loan buyer. Financed buyer. So if it's a finance buyer, just now I think we hear it from the date that you get it until, if it's a cash buyer, you probably will be able to have everything done within a month approximately.
Yes.
Right. But what if it is a finance buyer? Generally, how long that would take?
If it's finance buyer, it's about 30 to 45 days, and maximum 60 days on a residential loan. Okay, if it's a commercial loan, then it gets a little longer because there's another layer of questions and other paperwork or documentation that needs to be that's required by the bank. So for residential loans, it's between 30 to 60 days. If it's finance, for commercial loans, it stretches out to about 60 days.
Right, I see. Okay, so yeah, it is shorter than Malaysia, I must say. It's shorter than Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it is definitely considered quite liquid, I would say, in that sense. Of course, identify a buyer will need to have the time, for that to happen. So there is one question again from the same participant.
Wow, I like this forum. It's a lot of questions.
Yeah, what's the processing fee of real estate I have to pay attention to once I purchase and sell? So I believe what he's asking is not when I'm renting it out, is when I'm buying or when I'm selling. So when I'm selling, what will be the
cost, the legal cost, and yes, expenses.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, that's right.
So the cost of once this is how I calculate things. If you're a seller, your selling cost is probably around 10%, and that's including the commissions. There are other fees that has to be paid, like the title insurance fees that Matthew has mentioned. This is for a seller. You pay survey. Survey is a piece of document that shows the boundaries of your lot line of your property, and these are required by everyone. A survey, title fees, attorney fees, commissions, other miscellaneous fees. That's probably revolving around 10%. If you're on the buyer side, your fees are probably outside of the down payment. Let's say, obviously your down payment, if you're finance, of course, if you're cash, it's everything, right? But in addition to the cash money or the purchase price, there's another probably about 3 to 4% additional fees that you have to pay to close the deal. So if the property is $100,000, you need another $4,000 for other fees like title fees, again, attorney fees that you have to pay, and other miscellaneous fees that you have to pay as a buyer.
I see. Thank you very much, Vicky. So now thank you, Vicky. Now I wanted to actually be able to actually have a quick sessions with Dr. Sri Matthew before we close the sessions. But I realized at 9, without us realizing that the time now is 9:23. Dr. Sri Matthew.
Yes.
From a foreigner's perspective, from a foreigner's perspective, why do we go so far into the United States and right into the Midwest? I know Carl actually mentioned something, but from somebody who travels so extensively like yourself, why that location? Maybe you can share some of your
maybe
thoughts.
You have asked me a very big question, Agnes, but anyway, I will be able to answer that very easily. Yes, I have traveled a lot around in Southeast Asia, also to Europe and maybe other parts of the world. All right, now as far as investment is concerned, most of my investments are, I would say about 90% of my investments are based on real estate. Why? Because of the word real, real, because you know what, you can see it, you can touch it. That's why we call it real. Real estate, that's why it's real. You're talking about cryptocurrency, you're talking about all those things that all these new things that people are talking about. All right. It is there, it's there, you cannot feel it, but it's there. And it is there because people just want it. The moment there's no demand for it, it's not real anymore. But real estate is real, right? So that's why I go for real estate. Now, why real estate? Because like I say, it's real. But then you see, when you want to invest in real estate, you have to see also outside of Malaysia now. You have to see what are the legal parameters that you can invest in, right? You must see. So, like for example, if I go to Australia and invest, I know going to Australia, a lot of people, there are a lot of Malaysians. Any one of us, almost any one of us has got a family or a friend or a girlfriend or whatever, a mother, father who is staying there in Australia, right? But I don't want to go to Australia and invest there. You know why? Simply because I got problems when I want to resell my property. I cannot sell my property to a foreigner. I can only sell it to a local. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a problem. All right. And how many locals do I know there? Even if I get an agent to sell it there, are the locals so motivated to buy? That, I mean, they don't have the same concept like us Asians, where we must buy our own house. We have from small, we have been asked by our parents, and we have to go and buy our own property. All right. But that you are going on a place where people, they don't have that urgency to buy a property. If I go to Singapore, I can only buy a private condo. I cannot buy a HDB flat. Okay. I go to Hong Kong, the price of properties, don't even talk about landed properties, even condos, simple apartments, 200 square feet, shoebox apartment, right? It's really, really beyond me. Okay. If I go to some places like Vietnam or China, I got all these type of restrictions. But when I go to the US, I found it's such a wonderful country. The US doesn't restrict me. Anybody who is there can buy anything, like I've said earlier on. Okay, I don't mind to go to US. US is only a plane ride away, right? Even if it's a 16 hours, 20 hours away, I will get there eventually. I'm not going to the moon, okay? So I can go there. It's just a matter of spending a few more hours sitting inside the plane. I'll get there eventually. Now, when I go there eventually, I can open a bank account myself. I can buy the property myself. I can have the own LLC myself, right? I can do everything. Yeah, and the U.S. government even pays my my rent for me. Right? Which country is so good to pay the rent for me when I'm a foreigner? All right. So that's why I go to the U.S. Okay. So when I go to the U.S., I found that in order to get the sweet spot, because I'm focused on ROI, return on investment, I'm not focused so much on property gains. So when I go there, I look for property ROI. I found that Chicago is a place where I get the most bang for my bucks, because if I go to San Francisco, and New York, Chicago is about 1/3 the price, the property price of New York is half the price of San Francisco. Okay, so I find that the biggest city in the Midwest where I can have a cosmopolitan lifestyle and own a property, and it's such a nice, beautiful city. But the only thing is, a lot of people in Malaysia don't know about it. It's a best kept secret, But now what we're doing is we're telling people about it. All right.
I see.
So
Thank
that's
you
why
so much.
that's why I do that. Okay.
Right.
I could go on the whole night, Agnes, but then
I can really over drink. I'm just looking at the screenshot that I took when Vicky was sharing, which is the global bubble index. Global bubble index, right?
Yes.
So just now you're mentioning about Australia, and then I was like taking a quick look whether is there an Australian city over here, and I saw Sydney.
Yes.
I saw Sydney. Yeah, it's actually part of the global bubble index, even though it is not on the red side like Hong Kong, but it's actually still on the yellow side.
Yellow means overpriced. It's overpriced.
Yeah. And also Los Angeles is actually on the yellow side.
Yes.
Right. And actually Singapore is on the green, which is good. Malaysia is none of the above.
It doesn't appear there. Not on the radar.
Yeah, probably it's not an index city yet. Huh?
Not in the radar.
Yeah. So I think we had a very good insight into Chicago, into the Midwest tonight, and maybe a quick 1 minute closing remarks from both Vicky and Dr. Matthew. Maybe I'll start from Vicky first, a closing remark.
Thank you, Agnes, and thank you for the opportunity for me to speak today. I hope everybody can see why Chicago, right? Why from Kyle's information earlier to what I've given you as far as real estate is concerned. I think Chicago is the best kept secret. Now it's not a secret anymore. So hopefully you can come and visit me and I can show you why Chicago. I can give you a tour of all Chicago and see the skylights and how clean and beautiful the city is. And the people are very nice as well. In terms of people, we are also as diverse as it can be. We have all types of people. Asian Americans comprise about 6% here in the city. There's probably about over 600,000 Asian Americans here in the city or in Illinois. So as far as hand holding, you can feel at home here in Chicago because you can go any places and be comfortable in coming down here. So I invite everyone to be here and hopefully you can do business here as well. So thank you again, Agnes.
Thank you, Vicky. Sri Matthew, closing remarks?
Closing remarks. Okay. Thank you, Agnes. I think it's a very good opportunity for us to share over here. Again, speaking as a Malaysian, all right, over here, I am very focused on earning some US dollars. Okay, I have to be very honest about that. Okay, because I find that to a certain extent, earning US dollars gives me a lot more freedom to do what I want to do in terms of spending. Like for example, I go to the shops, I go for one nice fine dining. I just take out my US credit card, and I only pay about what, $100 US dollars. That is only the grass cutting fee, that I have to pay in the US. And it buys me a fine dining night over here with a bottle of wine or that kind of thing. So, I would like to spread this message to all the listeners here today. Of course, although Malaysia, we live here, but let us not confine ourselves only to Malaysia. All right, let's think a bit globally and earn some foreign currencies and, do yourself a favor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sri Matthew.
Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in this evening. I believe this session has actually been fruitful to you, and it is for me. So as to find out more about the opportunity in the Midwest or the US, do drop your contact details to the organizer in the chat message. And we will be more than happy to pass on the detail over to the relevant parties for them to be in touch with you. Yeah, like what Sri Matthew has actually mentioned, opportunity, we shouldn't confine by location nowadays, right? We need to actually look global in many ways beyond Malaysia to some extent. So now, not forgetting tomorrow, which is going to be the last day of the conference, it is also the day that we are going beyond Malaysia, ladies and gentlemen, into the ASEAN region, into the East and into the West. In this time, we are going to Europe. Okay, the opportunity over in Europe. So I personally attended many of the dry run actually, but I can tell you a sneak preview, everybody who is still staying up and listening to this conversation that I'm sharing, those are the sessions that you should not miss. There is a lot of information to be shared of opportunities, etc. I personally look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning. Clock-in time is 9:30, yeah? For those of you who sign in, you see the WhatsApp messages that we write 9 o'clock. Actually, it's 9:30 tomorrow. The first session will be going to ASEAN region first, the ASEAN corridor. And let's continue our learning journey tomorrow together, okay? So on behalf of the organizer, I wish you a great evening and good night, everyone. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Agnes.
See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Good night. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow morning, everyone. See you tomorrow morning, 9:30.